So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our third Focus Cities webinar of the year. My name is Garrett Fortine with UC Berkeley SafeTREC, and I'm your host today. For those not familiar, SafeTREC stands for Safe Transportation Research and Education Center. We are a University of California, Berkeley research center affiliated with the Institute of Transportation Studies and the School of Public Health. Our mission is to reduce transportation-related injuries and fatalities through research, education, outreach, and community service. SafeTREC conducts research, provides technical assistance and workshops to communities across California, educates the transportation safety professionals of tomorrow, and coordinates major transportation safety programs for the state of California. We are partners with California Walks for our Focus Cities efforts. California Walks is a statewide voice for pedestrian safety and healthy, walkable communities for people of all ages and abilities. They provide technical assistance to communities to create more walkable communities, and they also work at the state level to advance opportunities for active transportation. We'd also like to acknowledge the support of the California Office of Traffic Safety, who provided a grant through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration for this program. We appreciate their dedicated support of community pedestrian and bicycle safety. All right, before we dive in, a couple of housekeeping reminders. I think we're all sort of Zoom veterans at this point. Please be sure to mute your audio. We are recording both the webinar audio and chat features, and we will make that recording available afterwards. If you do not want to be recorded, please refrain from talking or using the chat feature. That said, if you have questions throughout the webinar, please type them in the chat box and we will answer as many as we can in our discussion at the end of the presentation. So we encourage you to ask questions and make use of the chat. And with that, I'm excited to introduce our panelists today, who will be sharing their expertise and experiences on community leadership. So first, we'll hear from Stephanie Hernandez, who is the Senior Manager of Parent Leadership and Advocacy at Partnership for Los Angeles Schools. Then we'll hear from Jackelyn Valladares, Senior Program Coordinator with Urban Peace Institute. And then our third panelist is Germán Quiñonez, who is a Neighborhood Development Director with Every Neighborhood Partnership. After the panelist presentations, my colleague Alma Leva with California Walks will then facilitate the panel discussion for the remainder of our time. So we'll start with you, Stephanie.
All right, thank you, and good morning, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Stephanie Hernandez. I'm the Senior Manager of Parent Leadership and Advocacy at the Partnership for LA Schools. So we'll go ahead and just start by telling you a little bit about my organization. So on the next slide, the next one after, thank you. So at the Partnership for LA Schools, we transform schools to revolutionize school systems, empowering all students with a high quality education. We do have a MOU with LAUSD, which allows us to work alongside 20 LAUSD schools, and we'll emphasize that they're all LAUSD public schools. We're not a charter organization. And from these schools, we are focused in 3 communities, which tend to be under-resourced communities and high-need schools. So on the next slide, to give you a visual of where we're at locally, for those that are familiar with the LA area, we're in Boyle Heights, South LA, Watts, and Watts adjacent. Those not familiar with the LA area, if you think of downtown, Boyle Heights is on the east side of the downtown area. Once you start going further down, you'll get the area of South Los Angeles. A little bit further south, we have Watts. And if you get to the other side of the freeway, we do have 2 schools that are a bit further from the community of Watts. So the schools that we operate tend to be high need schools, and we work as think of us as an additional resource for these schools and capacity building for our educators and our school staff. So on the next slide, you'll get a sense of what our model is. So our model focuses on 3 things, which is highly effective teaching, great leaders, and engaged and empowered communities. And with that together, we're aiming to have a really change within the system to have quality education and ensuring that all of our students are college ready. So just emphasizing the college going culture in each of these schools. So for today, what I'm going to focus a bit more on is a small component, but very meaningful, which is the engaged, empowered communities. So on the next slide, I'll tell you a bit about how we actually got into this space, right? So at the Partnership for LA Schools, excuse me, at the Partnership for LA Schools, we believe that parents play an essential role in winning policy changes that create fair opportunities for students in our communities. And our group here, United Parents for Educational Justice, is actually guided by the partnership, specifically myself, in facilitating training our UPEDGE leaders. And right here, you will see what is a parent-created mission statement that our families across from these three communities I mentioned wrote. So it's to develop parent power to achieve equitable education and safe communities for our children. When we talk about equitable education, our parents here, they take on advocacy opportunities at a district level and making sure that they elevate the voices of the students in their schools, in their community. And now when we touch on the safe communities for our children, very specifically, it is for the student pedestrian safety. So with this group, we actually were able to do a bit more capacity building and leadership development among our parents here. So how we came about with the mission and how we got focused, it actually started off with multiple schools across our communities addressing, we need more crossing guards. And when we thought it was gonna be I wouldn't say easy, that's not the right word, but we thought it was just gonna be, this is going to be an ask that we'll do with the school, that will go to the school district, and quickly came to learn that there's a very complex process. So on the next slide, I want to touch more on what we realized that pedestrian safety in general, but specifically even also in these communities, student pedestrian safety was an equity issue. First off, our families did not understand or didn't even know where to start to really how to have access and understand a complex system. Depending on their request, whether it was an improvement, whether it was infrastructure implementation, they just didn't know and had no guidance. And our school leaders at our school sites, they're not pedestrian safety experts. They are educators, school leaders, like their world is within the school boundaries. So we realized that it was a system that our school communities weren't equipped with or weren't sure how to maneuver. And then our families didn't know how to help. They felt a bit helpless when it came to this. So as we started exploring what it could look like to really make this system accessible to our families, we had another barrier. We realized that there's this lack of digital literacy. That can go in many ways. One, if we have something like the application of 311, where you could take a picture, submit your service request to get that that looked at or that fixed, whatever that issue was, our parents didn't know how to download an app, or our parents sometimes didn't even have a cell phone. And this became an issue as well, because when you think about who are in our communities, who are the people who are walking, it's our families that don't necessarily have access to a vehicle, or we have parent guardians, which are a lot of like older folks that take care of their grandchildren or are taking on parent guardianship for other students. They're the ones walking around and they just didn't have access to this. Not just that, they either didn't have internet at home, did not know how to use a laptop to research, how do I make this request? What is this complex system? That was just to name a few of the barriers that we came about. Also, there is a language barrier, right? The communities that we serve are predominantly Latino communities, which most are predominantly Spanish speaking. So when we did find resources for them to kind of get educated, get a sense of what it was, realizing that we had to get the partnership, myself, had to get resources to make sure we got a lot of these materials translated. And not just that, is this piece of really taking the time and educating our parents when we're talking about high visibility crosswalk. We talk about speed humps versus speed bumps, where we're talking about the intersections, right? We had the extended sidewalks. Our families were not aware that they had all these options to improve their community, to improve the area surrounding the schools. So every step along the way, there was something that we realized that we really needed to take the time to build the capacity, not only from our parents, but to make sure that they had access to this existing resources and also push for additional resources, seeing that it wasn't something very easy for them to be able to grasp and to even just feel that they owned and they could do on their own. It was a lot of support, not only from myself, but also from across communities. We made sure to meet together, meet individually. It's not just a blanket resource for everyone. Everyone had their own barriers that they face within each community, and also the leadership development. So on the next slide, you will see that we had the opportunity to do a community pedestrian and bicycle safety training in each of these communities that I mentioned. So we did one in Watts, one in South LA, and another in Boyle Heights. So this actually gave parents a leverage on their advocacy, because one thing is to go to your decision maker, for example, let's say a council member or their field deputy, and be like, I want X, Y, and Z in this intersection. And the other thing is, your community, your constituents did a walking assessment. And we had this report to show on this intersection, we want high visibility crosswalks because there is no yellow lines to indicate that we're in a school zone. There's a school right here in this intersection. Also, the timing of these lights, it's impossible for elementary student to walk from one end to the other on time without the light already trying to change on them. It's scary for them. We need to change the time intervals on these intersections and very specific. So this workshop not only was an opportunity to do leadership development, but to really have voice input on the whole community. And with that, they were able to really use the report and go to their decision maker, be like, this is what your constituents are wanting. This is what we saw. And these are our recommendations that we feel that our city should work on. That, and alongside with the support of our school principals, is very useful. And I think through this, it really helped to really, when it comes to emphasizing the building the community leadership, but really what it looks like to take the time to give our families a voice, give our families something to fight for, that they can feel confident in advocating on their own or collectively. So I think, so I just gonna go on the next slide. And on this next slide, I just want to show you on what this looked like. It wasn't one solution solved everything across communities. You're gonna see different tactics that our families use across these communities. You're looking at community forums in South LA. You're looking at additional walking assessments to let's take a look back at this packet, at this report that we did a while back. What's been improved, what hasn't? What do we need to follow up on? So we did continue to do walking assessments, right? Not just that one time for the report and that's the end of it. We have petition gathering. Once they realized that there's existing programs, for example, a speed hump program from the LA Department of Transportation, we had our families go around the school and having the residents around there to sign like, hey, let me educate you what a speed hump is. This is why we want to do it. Would you like to sign yes or no on the installation of a speed hump? So we had that. We had families visiting their local council member for their asks in their office, right? This is not something they would have felt comfortable doing had they not had this resource of a report. And again, the accessibility of really addressing the barriers they had when they wanted to advocate for pedestrian safety issues. And on the right-hand corner, you will see one of our principals gladly signing one of the petitions as they had their local council member have that petitions emailed, again, but very specific ask, so they can see that this is something very urgent to families, especially in the school community. And on some other pictures below, you will see that it's our group, again, just a gathering. Again, repetition is key. So we make sure, despite us already talking about a resource, talking about issues, we always revisit and always educate other families around us. And also just kind of, again, it's like flexing that muscle of like, what are the technicalities? What are the different solutions to address the student pedestrian safety issue in our schools? So you'll see a picture of a gathering where everyone was talking about the wins some of the obstacles and how they became some of the obstacles, right? So it's really a community building event where they were able to motivate each other across communities and also learn from each other, right? Like what are some strategies Watts used that maybe Boyle Heights didn't think about doing? What was some learnings from the community forum that happened in South LA that, hey, maybe Boyle Heights should do that as well. We haven't tried that. We like that idea. So it's a really opportunity to gather together. And lastly, I do wanna go ahead and just like end with the picture in the middle. I think one of the biggest learnings from this whole experience of really, again, making sure that our families are equipped to address the pedestrian safety. It's an ecosystem. This wasn't a school issue. This wasn't it's just a council member issue. It's a resident issue. It's really gathering all these different entities as whole in this ecosystem to work together to be able to create safer communities for our students, safer communities for our families, and just everyone around. So I would end with that. And I really hope that with this, it really helps think through of what are some improvements, what are some things that we could think about so we can give that power to our communities, to our families. They're the experts in these streets to allow them to really tell the community and others what are the improvements that need to be done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And I really like the idea or the ability of getting the community, different communities you work with together, and they're able to meet each other and share ideas. I really love that. Next up, we're going to hear from Jackie.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie Valladares, and I work for the Urban Peace Institute. Thank you for having me. I'll go to the next slide. I am a senior program coordinator at the Urban Peace Institute, and I focus a lot in our safe and healthy communities initiatives, which I'll explain a little further. If we can go on the next slide. To introduce Urban Peace Institute, also known as UPI, also known as the Connie Rice for Urban Peace. We were a project of the advancement project, and then we separated into our own nonprofit organization. We lead in the field of community safety, practice and system solutions to reduce violence, achieve safety, and improve community health so everyone can thrive. Our goal is that all community members have safety, opportunity, and health to thrive in their communities. The next slide. So some of our strategies and some of our areas of work is the Urban Peace Academy. The Urban Peace Academy is basically a training for intervention workers and prevention workers that are doing peacekeeping in the community. And a little bit to explain this is that we work with formerly gang involved folks and or systems impacted folks or violent folks who have experienced violence themselves, and they basically want to be part of the peacekeeping in their communities. And so they go through a whole training of how to de-escalate situations where there might be guns involved or individuals who are currently involved in gang affiliated situations. So it's a whole like comprehensive training that folks go into, and then they get certified, and then they do work in the community, and they respond to when an incident happens that it might be gang affiliated, or there's or they also like work with like folks to bring them into resources and bring them back to whole. Our safe and healthy communities, which I would dive a little deeper, is our where we train our residents. And we somewhat similar to Stephanie, what she mentioned is that we make sure we meet residents where they're at, because a lot of folks are in different capacities, and something that we do at our core is that they care about their communities. They want safer communities too. They want cleaner communities too. And we basically train folks and really dive into like what they would like to see change and how to like equip them with tools and how to better advocate in their communities. And then our training and technical assistance is where we provide technical assistance to cities or municipalities, even the public library at times, also law enforcement agencies, and how to really center around a comprehensive development towards addressing any of concerns that they may have. Also how to do outreach in the community, how to de-escalate situations from happening, and how to involve the community as well. And then our smart justice is really centered around LA County, and Stephanie did a wonderful job of how to explain how like LA is set up in a sense. We have LA City and LA County, and so we do a lot of advocacy and funding advocacy in the county of Los Angeles. A lot of our work is advocating for funds to be not removed, but to be redirected from youth incarceration and more towards like comprehensive and like giving the resources to those folks who have been systems impacted. Next slide, please. So a little deeper into our safe and healthy communities. So we have our place-based initiatives that are really tailored with the community. What works in Watts might not work in East LA. What works in East LA might not work in Pacoima, which is in the Valley of Los Angeles. And a lot of the communities might be experiencing similar quality of life concerns, but they might require a different approach. And so at our core, it's really important to promote capacity of the resident. And I always say this to our residents because a lot of the folks that we work with might be undocumented, might not have finished school. And so a lot of it, I like empower them. I'm like, you are experts in your community. Some of you have been living in your community for more than 20 years. You know how your community functions. You know what works in your community. So I always empower them that they're community experts and they have lived experience versus someone who might read about the community, might not know how it feels to be in their community. So it's really important that we meet community members where they're at and enhance their capacity and their leadership and define their community efforts. And by that, we have our school safety collaboratives. We have two, one in Watts, which is in South Los Angeles, in a sense, which the Watts Regional School Safety Collaborative will parents, school administrative staff, intervention and prevention agencies. We have our CSP officers, which is officers who also do some relationship building with the community, and they all talk about safety, safe passage. And something that I wanted to highlight, that safe passage, yes, in the lens of transportation is for cars to go slower and be mindful of pedestrians and cyclists and people moving, but is also safe passage towards gang activity in the community. So we involve, like I said, intervention workers or prevention workers that also keep an eye in case something escalates, because something that happens is that there's many quality of life concerns from sidewalks not being accessible, but also cars driving really fast. And then on top of that, another layer is that there's gang activity and recruitment. And so how can we create a safe way for students to walk into from school and families to walk into from school? So there's a whole ecosystem, like Stephanie mentioned, that creates this safety. And we have the Harbor Park Regional School Safety Collaborative, which is also like in South Central Los Angeles. And similar, one of our interventionist workers actually said in this collaborative that cross guards are not respected in the community. So they have to help because they know folks in the community and they walk with them. So there's two people, the cross guard and the intervention worker walking students from school because it's such a concern, and cars are driving so fast and not even respecting cross guards. So it's something that is helping this public safety infrastructure. And so we're always constantly in these collaboratives working together, submitting these 311 requests, which is a system where if there is if there's like a sign that went down, or if there's like trash on the street, or any like quality of life concern that's in the city, and really to distinguish is that this is a city, Los Angeles city app, because I've worked with residents that are in the county of Los Angeles, and the county does not have the system, so it's a little bit more more understanding the system is a little more intense than that. So that's like a roadblock itself, and then how to navigate. And sometimes I'm always systems navigating with residents and making sure that like we take pictures. Sometimes they don't feel comfortable taking pictures because they feel like other folks are watching them, and that's another concern too. So they let me know what's going on. And I like type up the request. I also give them the phone number. They have like English and Spanish, and we work together with the council member to escalate the situation. Also, we have the Leadership Institute, and this is where we train our folks. And we have 3 cohorts. I know that everyone might be in a different like level. We have the emerging, which is our entry level. We have the advanced, which is the associate level, and the Congress, which is the partner level. And so in the emerging, they learn how to find their voice, and a lot of from a social justice vocabulary to so many other systems that really show how to like build their voice. Advanced is like they start practicing how to advocate at City Hall, or how to advocate at the supervisors, at the Board of Supervisors. And the Congress, they develop their own campaign. And it's really powerful to see like what they really are passionate about. These leaders are also compensated in a stipend for their time. And I think this is another aspect that like we are investing not only in like enhancing their skills and meeting where they're at, but we also compensate them with a stipend, because we understand that there's also that aspect that our leaders need to get paid too. So I will go on to the next slide. And so this is a little bit of like a leader actually sent me this picture and saying like, hey, this is my going to school to and from, and there's a lot of trash, and sometimes there's needles and things like that. And so I'm always constantly receiving pictures. And sometimes they even they share my number with somebody else, and they're like, hey, can you address it? And so I'm happy to submit, but also I teach them and telling them that please download the app. And so this is something where we want to create spaces where parents and community partners, we address and like also create safe and cleaner communities for them. It doesn't always need to be in the richer communities, but also these communities deserve dignity as well. The next slide. And so we really believe that it's essential that students are able to walk into from school without being threatened by gangs. In Watts and South LA, UPI is developing and leading with partnerships between school leaders, school administrators, law enforcement, intervention agencies, and to ensure students feel safe traveling to from school, not only from gun violence, you can say, but also from vehicle violence. So I started using vehicle violence because some folks are driving recklessly and violent. And so I'm really like passionate personally, because I almost was nearly missed by a car in my own community. And I think it's something that definitely could be prevented. And the next slide. And so again, just to restate, these are some of the leaders that graduated from the Congress level this past June. And we're really proud of them, of all those tools that they learned. And our goal is for everyone, from systems impacted folks to our community members who haven't been systems impacted, for them to have safety, opportunity to thrive. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jackie. That holistic approach to safety, like, walking to school and being safe from different forms of violence is something that we are always trying to like work on and get at from different points of view. So it's really, really valuable to have that sort of holistic approach. Thank you. All right, so our final panelist is Germán. So take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Garrett. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, so Every Neighborhood Partnership is a local nonprofit organization here in the city of Fresno. Some of y'all might know we're the Central Valley. We're the central part of California, the best part, the hard part. Here's our mission: to activate, equip, mobilize, and transform, which is really our framework and how we engage community members, how we look at the built environment, how we equip resident leaders, parent leaders, org leaders to mobilize them to transform their own neighborhoods. So I'm really a big fan of our new mission statement, which is new. And our vision is for students to excel, community members are healthy and whole, and our neighborhoods thrive. I'll get into why students are a very important part of the processes for our vision. Next slide. A little bit more about us as an organization. We work to address the physical and social disparities that exist in our communities through these interventions that promote educational attainment in lower performing schools, and advocacy work that advances equity in transportation, affordable housing, access to health, and the improvement of the built environment. Next slide. So here's our impact of the city or on our city here. So I mentioned students because strategically it makes sense for us to invest into the youth in our neighborhoods. So we really invested a lot of our programming, our funding, our personnel. We have a really good connectivity with our Fresno Unified School District our stakeholders who have engaged the last 15 years or so. So while we have different departments and different areas of focus in our organization, our two biggest departments are school support, which has a focus on resiliency, health initiatives with youth, through fitness, nutrition education, relational connectivity through what we call Saturday sports. On Saturday, we use the green spaces, which the lack of parks and the lack of the beautification of parks in our neighborhoods. We have sought a joint use agreement with our elementary schools. So we have identified 93 green spaces in our neighborhoods. And so we utilize that, connect with partners to facilitate those spaces with youth and families. And then we're on campus every week. We have mentors from universities, older individuals, and folks who really have a passion to really invest into the youth through literacy and education interventions. We have Fresno, which are after school programs. So our North Star, if you would, is our health and literacy is one. We see that as our social emotional component of our youth engagement. We don't see those as separate. We see those as a component that's complemented toward their growth and their education and our goals for attainment there. But where I live and my work is neighborhood development. So we really focus on people and place. And one of the two biggest things we see here is that place matters and people matter. So we do a lot of work with resident groups. We do a lot of focus empowerment through teaching, education, capacity building. We really work to have a leadership development model, which creates a pipeline from parents to community members, from stakeholders. They're all in this process of learning together with the goal of activating their neighborhoods for change. Place is a big thing for us. We're really focused on defined geographies. I know many have been in spaces where the approach is more of a shotgun approach, which is not bad. It's a regional tactic. We found here in Fresno is our motivation is to work on neighborhood by neighborhood, which is really tricky. But we identified a lot of these neighborhoods are defined through zip codes, through census tracts, through blocks, and we have identified neighborhoods by elementary schools. So our footprint is wide. but we're really focused on a particular neighborhood. Again, civic infrastructure is one of our goals, which encompasses a lot of different things: capacity building, neighborhood support, advocacy work to really change the outlook of neighborhoods. I would say though as well, power analysis is one of our bigger things as well, as we teach and educate and equip residents to understand the power that exists. If residents want power, they need to do a power analysis. So we do a lot of power analysis teaching and workshops on that. Next slide. Who we work with, it's in our name, right? Partnerships. We have a partnership with 35 schools and counting. We work with a lot of churches. We found those to be stakeholders in our communities because they're also placed in those geographies. So we're really trying to leverage them as an asset to the neighborhood. They have a building, they have their own people as far as a network. If they have a shared interest in seeing their neighborhood flourish, we would connect with those churches to help kind of build the capacity of residents. We work with a lot more CBOs and nonprofits, 30 and counting. As some of them in the spaces know, we have a collective. There's collaborations, but we do a lot of capacity building with these CBOs. So we do a lot of workshops, a lot of trainings, a lot of one-on-ones, a lot of coaching, so that we can duplicate ourselves in different geographies. We work a lot with universities. Our biggest university here in Fresno is Fresno State, as well as Fresno City College as well, and a few others, other universities. Next slide. When I mentioned about geography, the footprint here in Fresno, we have the Tale of Two Cities. What's not on here is South and North Fresno, which you see in blue shade, is all our work. So whether it's school support or neighborhood development, we're all in these neighborhoods here that you see blue, shaded blue. I would say historically, Fresno, we have redlining as a historical challenge for us. We have seen urban sprawl. You see the edges growing. We haven't seen a lot of development and investment back into older established neighborhoods. So this is always a tension that we manage in the city of Fresno with our engagement. Although we're also top heavy north of Fresno, the reality is all the resources and investment is going north rather than south. My work is really focused on South Fresno, really trying to champion the change there, which is a long battle in itself. But I would say Fresno is very unique in this sense that we have identified 93 neighborhoods. So I mentioned earlier about neighborhoods. This is how we identify neighborhoods, which helps us as we asset map, do data analysis, and as we identify where residents are coming from. We have identified these neighborhood pockets. Much like Boa Heights, it's a very unique and branded geography. We're trying to do the same thing here in Fresno by branding the neighborhoods as well. Next slide. A little bit more about my work. So we connect with residents. We have a lot of one-on-ones. We connect with parent groups to identify those priorities that community members want to work on. And we often hear is the infrastructure, is the built environment, is the lack of community safety, traffic concerns. And this is a process. Here's our cycle of organizing, right? We have one-on-ones, we have group meetings, workshops, community meetings, focus groups. And then in this process, we're also discovering assets and shared motivations. And so we can build a capacity of residents and team members and build a network of folks ready to activate for change in the communities. We have classes, and I'll get into more on that later. Maybe mobilize them out. It's kind of our four-step model of organizing in a nutshell. Capacity building, again, I mentioned earlier that we do a lot of coaching, building or capacity with organizations, which also includes neighborhood associations, steering committees, focus groups, and we just train. We do a lot of training. Next slide. Again, coming back to one of our focus on civic infrastructure and the built environment, our neighborhood renewal program. We do a lot of planning with commissions, the City of Fresno Planning Department, folks who are decision makers on how things are shaped and designed in our city. So we do a lot of planning with them, but also we invite community members to be the ultimate decision makers and share their voice. We focus a lot on shared alignment with other CBOs and stakeholders that we have an alignment of the shared analysis that we can move the ball forward here in our city. Because I would say, while Fresno is one of the biggest cities in California, we're still And I would say we're still behind in most cities as far as really being progressive and change as far as infrastructure. We prioritize a lot of neighborhood initiatives. Again, we're hearing community members. What we hear is their shared aspirations and dreams. So we then help them kind of create a neighborhood plan so that we can then petition that for the city of Fresno or city council to adopt a neighborhood plan based on the geography. We get into more of the health component. There's a health component in this program as well. We do a lot of health education around mental health, diabetes, a lot of different things on that area. We call that Pláticas a Salud. We have a program there that's very impactful. We do a lot on physical movement with physical dance, again, health, nutrition, getting folks from communities who don't have access to health or gyms or community gardens or healthy foods. We really try to do our best to kind of create some spaces. And I would say that we also stipend a lot of our residents who we train to become those facilitators and promotoras. Next slide. Again, a little bit about our capacity building. What you see on the left is our education. Here's a sample size of one neighborhood where we're doing analysis. We're teaching them on, hey, here's our traffic designs works. Here's the general plan works. Here's some ways and steps that we can enter and really advocate for change. So we do a lot of education components there. We do modules, classes, and then folks who graduate from that, here's the continuum. Then they go move on to a leadership cohort. What you see on the right are some powerful women who went through 6 months of really intense learning, shared learning, of field trips and learning from other stakeholders and best practitioners in the city of Fresno. And these are folks who can now become employed by CBOs because they have attained a lot of learning new skill sets, and they're all advocates as well. I'm super proud of that model. Next slide. So it's not just the theoretical space we're in, education and a lot of heavy education. We focus on a lot of action as well. So here's the tension of being theoretical and praxis, right? So action is one of our key components as well, one of our key chief foundational principles. While we're doing the teaching part, we're also doing the learning part and doing the action part. So what you see on the left is me facilitating a walking audit in a neighborhood. So we went through a class the week before on what is a walking audit? How do you identify the changes in the neighborhood? And hey, let's actually do it next week. So and that was really successful. We do a lot of those type of interventions as well. And advocacy, what you see on the right is a neighborhood who's being acknowledged for their work of identifying the challenges, the traffic challenges in the neighborhood, and being recognized in the city of Fresno with the pledge to see some investment in those neighborhoods. Next slide. Some case studies. Next slide here's some examples, some living examples here in Fresno that we found successful. And here's what I'll say that is how we tweaked some things from the traditional approach of obtaining permits and going through ATP funds. We have found different ways to be creative. Next slide. So in partnership with CalWalks has really been really beneficial for us as a resource. It's created some frameworks for us. So what you see on the left and right is West Fresno and Miguel Hidalgo Elementary neighborhood, which I'm from. You also see me there in the picture as well. So we do a lot of work with CalWalks. We do a lot of work around with identifying the challenges in communities through traffic challenges, and we do a lot of work there. Next slide. So when I mentioned about being creative, here's an intervention of creating a bulb out, right? And so this neighborhood in Jackson was not a neighborhood that was identified through CalWalks, but we have residents, neighborhoods who are community members who've expressed the really challenge and concern to change their patterns. And I would say a lot of our work is sanctioned and not sanctioned, right? This is not sanctioned. We just said, we have a template to how to create a bulb out. We have some resources. Hey, neighborhood, if you have community members, let's connect, let's strategize, let's do a house meeting. Let's do some creative processes to design something. And let's just do a demonstration day. What you see here is a bulb out demonstration and a intersection that's been the most challenging for families. And so this is one way that we have been creative of do some traffic calming. Next slide. There's also a feedback loop, right? So we never do anything in separation from the project and hearing more community voice. So while we're doing that project, by the way, there was 4 bulb outs that same day. We also had a community event later that same evening. So we had folks chime in, interact, and also participate in some of those bulb outs. But we're also asking community members what they want to see. Again, this is one way that we've been creative to help identify some traffic calming solutions. Next slide. Creating safe routes to school. Again, this is one of our neighborhoods that we've seen traffic being a big concern. Here's an alleyway that's adjacent to a neighborhood school. And if I'm honest, all the parents and kids who live west of the elementary travel through this alley. So we thought, hey, what's one way we create safe routes? Let's beautify, let's have an improvement project. You can't see in this picture, but we have 45 murals that was painted, designed by community members, kind of creating a safe space. We cleaned up the whole gutter. We put some benches, kind of create kind of a park feel to it. Again, it wasn't sanctioned, but we did it. And we found later that this is a 3-year project and still exists, still there. We're getting a lot of support now from the city to duplicate this elsewhere. Next slide. Road improvements. This is the traditional route of listening to the community members, advocating for change. So through catwalks and through other support measures, we identify West Fresno, which is probably the most disadvantaged and the vulnerable part of our city. This is near West Elementary School. Historically, it's been a bad road. And so we listen to the community members, we push for improvement. We got some funding just as last summer, we got new roads paved. Next slide. Oh, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Germán. I love the specific examples. So next, we have some time for questions. So I invite if you have a question to type it in chat, and I'll hand it over to my colleague Alma to do the rest of it. So I'm going to stop sharing here, and so people can bring your images up.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again to our panelists for everything that you shared. It's been really beautiful to see all of the different examples that you all have of how you've engaged with community. Again, feel free to type any questions you have in the chat, or we're a pretty good sized group. So if folks want to just unmute and ask questions out loud, please feel free to do so. I think for me, it was really great to get to hear everybody and sort of, think through my own trajectory of as a community member too, and how I've been able to grow my leadership through organizations like yours that really invested in community leadership. But I think one of my first questions for y'all, and whoever wants to answer first, are what are some of the things that you all have learned from community members that you've been working with?
I can go ahead and share. I think one thing I would say, the pride they have for the community, despite them addressing all the issues that they had, there's just so much pride, and it was very fulfilling to see these families walk down the street and tell their child oh, I helped put that stop sign in that intersection, mommy helped do it for you. And really it was I wouldn't say there are some racial tensions, specifically in Watts, very subtle, very microaggression, whatever. But I would say that doing the CPBST, the walking assessment, is just one of the few times in my time at the partnership, which is just 4+ years, everyone came together, everyone came along, and to see the physical changes in your community really did something to them. They loved it. And I think with that, just motivated them to keep doing it more. Knowing this is long-term, I think that's something very important to emphasize. This is for the long term. It's going to take a while to see the changes, to see the fruits of your labor, but it's totally worth it. And when it does happen, it just does something for them. So I think that's just one thing that really sparked me and learned when being in these communities.
I want to say someone similar, since I work also in Watson, and actually Stephanie and I intersect a lot in the work that we do. there is like some tension because sometimes I do work in the housing developments and lots, and one in particular has a lot more tension. And sometimes working and meeting the community members or where they're at, there's always like South Los Angeles used to be predominantly a very Black community, and even before then, you can say it was white and then indigenous, and so now the demographic has shifted and folks feel a little of the emerging residents want to see their community in a different way. And so something that I've learned is that just being very respect where people are coming from and where they're at and showing them respect. Sometimes even offering, having translation in some meetings can get some folks agitated who are monolithic English speaking because their community used to be a certain way 15 years ago. And now we have to have translation to provide that language justice. And so it's just like really being mindful of like where different lenses are coming from, and knowing that history in certain communities is really important for me, knowing where, how to meet community members where they're at.
Yeah, and I want to answer the question from Lindell. The question was, what response has the local government had to the unsanctioned improvements? I'm imagining that's to my piece. Yeah, so there's tension, right? And so we get into a lot of good trouble here in Fresno. What we have seen is that pushback becomes less and less when the community wants it, right? It's very hard for a politician to say, hey, or a department like the traffic department or public works. Sorry, public works, if you hear this. But when they push back, we're saying, hey, community wants it and we're gonna support them. So what, right? Because change is not gonna happen overnight. Change won't happen if we just wait for local government to change some policies, zonings, traffic concerns. So what we have found is when community members are excited, motivated, and they have the right support, we're finding the local government pushing back slower and slower and slower. The posture is changing a little bit. I won't say it's radically changed, but I would say as long as community members want it, and there's support and there's a backbone of an organization to support that, I'm optimistic change will happen by using intervention, unsanctioned practices.
And just to briefly add to that, I think in terms of my experience is a little tactical where we ensure to include more than one person. If it's email correspondence, I try to assign at least a handful of parents. Are you comfortable being CC'd on these emails? You don't have to respond if you don't feel comfortable, but so it knows that it's coming from the community and there's that accountability piece. So if they say no, other people are going to read why you're saying no. And it's happened only a few times, but it's worked where someone else was like, actually, I think I can help with this. So not really limiting yourself to one, but just like really having that transparent communication and letting them know, by the way, I have some residents or families CC'd on this, just so they can be in the loop. There's that accountability piece where they have to respond and give a reason why. And again, if we're lucky, someone in that email from all different entities, including that communication, could be like, actually, I can address this. And that's one way that has been helpful to get around, or at least to push back on some of these things.
Thank you, everyone, for your answers. And I think that that's also like a really big thing, right? Because the community members then start sort of being involved in these like spaces where they weren't before. So what are some of the ways in which you've been able to connect community members into spaces that they're oftentimes excluded from? So with like things like speaking with agencies or directly connecting with elected officials and things like that. Like, are there spaces where they haven't always been included? How are some of the ways that y'all are sort of like making those connections?
I can start. So some of the ways that we welcome them, so for example, a lot of them wanted to know what 311 is. And in one of the collaboratives, they wanted to know. And so we said as a follow-up, we're going to ask the council members office to see if they can provide a training. And so, and then the following meeting, because we had monthly meetings, we had the training and we walked through the steps. And we actually shared a graph of like who submits the request the most by district. There's 15 districts in the city of LA currently. And so Council District 15, and that's where Watts lies on, had one of the lowest. And so it showed how we need that education, but also need to also hold our residents accountable to submit those requests, because I told him, look, based on this chart, we're not doing the best, and then other districts are submitting at a faster rate, but also meeting them and where they're at. Some of the app at that time was in Spanish, and a lot of our folks speak Spanish. And now in current time, there's like 7 languages. And so doing a refresher and how to, and some of them need to be escalated because they're not submitted in the right category. But that's something in how we, they ask, and we ask that, hey, we have about 30 people who want to see you training them. They really want to get those tools, and then like coordinating and making sure and advocating is something that that I've done in the past, as an example.
I would mention that we've been fortunate enough to really budget to address those type of barriers. So I'll just name one without going down the list, but the one thing that's been like huge for us is transportation for our families. Especially, I think it's mostly when we want them to come collectively to their council member, to come to their space, and in the moments that they can't make, there's always like that pushback of showing up at a school. Then I've used what's called Lyft Concierge. So it provides me able to give lifts to the parents at multiple rides at once. So we eliminate a transportation issue, and that way they're able to safely get to and from their local council member's office to advocate for things. I think, again, naming out where the barriers and making sure like what are we doing to address those ahead of time, so we can be very realistic on the different approaches our families can have when they want to meet with their decision makers.
Yeah, and I would just add to what was already been spoken is I think it's key to invite those decision makers for support, right? And so the sanction interventions, we found some really good process where we're inviting stakeholders into a community meeting led by resident leaders and really direct how can they support this cause. It really puts them in a hot seat. Oftentimes we've seen to say, well, we actually support that, and how can they give to that? So we're actually funding it or really clearing the red tape for some of the stuff we're doing. So I think that's key as well. If possible, invite them to a space along as the community members are organizing and facilitating and they're leading it. I think we found that to be a successful model. Where that doesn't take place, then we would do a different direction.
Thank you all so much. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up and send it back to Garrett.
All right, thank you so much. Some great tips here and advice. So thank you. Okay, so we're at the end of our session together. Thank you to all of our presenters. Thank you, Stephanie, Jackie, and Germán for your time on this and for sharing your knowledge and experiences. I encourage everyone to take what you've learned today and apply it to your work. Finally, we will have these slides as well as a link to the recording of the webinar available for you soon. So thanks so much for sharing part of your day, and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.